Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the 3 new troops that were added to Gems of War version 3.25. This was actually the most amount of troops ever added into a patch that wasn't related to an actual kingdom. All 3 of these are in completely different kingdom and were just simply added to the chest drop pool. So if you open up things like Glory, Gem, Guild, and VIP chests, you would have a chance of getting them already. And the 3 troops are as follows, these 3 right over here. They are the Signia, Spinneret, and Zara. So let's go over some teams for all 3 of them as well as what they do. Well, actually, Sir Signia. She's actually useless, so we're not really going to be going over much with her, but I do want to say why she's useless. It's mainly because Silver Maiden is her, but even stronger. They're both in Epic, so there isn't like any kind of rarity disparity or anything like that. But basically what it does is it gives itself a bunch of life, a barrier, and then deals 8 damage to an enemy. One thing to note is that this 8 damage is static. Not quite sure why they did this. This is the same mechanic that Dark Master has, where it just does a really trivial amount of static damage. Very, very, very weak. Traits are almost identical to the Silver Maiden, except slightly weaker in a way. But if we go over to Silver Maiden, we can see not only does it still have the barrier, but it also has a cleanse on top of that, which Signia doesn't have. It gets to destroy a row, which means you actually get the mana and you get board control. It has a very high armor and life gain, and with the boost ratio that it gets for destroying yellow, it can almost close the gap of Signia. I know she's not fully upgraded. She could probably get like a 28 life gain, but with this you can get by default like a 24 from just destroying a row, and that's just the life itself, not even counting the armor. And on top of that, you just get the better traits, which with the leadership, that also closes the gap, so you're pretty much doing what Signia can already do. And overall, the Silver Maiden for only a 2 higher mana cost is just vastly superior to a Signia, to the point that you would never bother using it. Even Silver Maiden was considered towards the weaker side and very underused. So the fact that they added something even weaker than it is basically dead content at this point. But the other 2 are very, very decent. So let's go into the first one and actually just go straight into a team with it. See what our 3 trophy is. And we're going to be starting off with the Spinneret against apparently the whole Strigic team, or Strigs, or whatever they're called, Strixes. However you pronounce that thing. But what we're running with here is a full web entangle mana drain team. Really weird combination, but we get this little guy. It is a Spinneret. It deals full AoE damage for only 11 mana cost, which is pretty cheap, and it also places a web on a random enemy. The fact that it's random is pretty unfortunate. Generally, when you're using a web, you want to be able to target the web and use it on the enemy that has the biggest effect when they're webbed, but it is currently the only troop on in the game right now that has the ability to web on its ability, as well as the ability to web on skulls. So that's a pretty nice combination that it can have, even though it can't specifically target them, other than maybe to first slot when it's in first itself. But what is this mainly used for? Of course, web is a magic countering ability that when an enemy is inflicted with it, they will not be able to use any of their magic. They also will not be able to gain any magic, though you will not want to use stat reduction because they also aren't able to lose magic while they are webbed. It works the same way as Entangle, except instead of doing it for attack value, it does it for the magic value. So for example, many troops use their magic value pretty heavily. As you can see on this Garuda, a good majority of his damage comes directly from the magic that he has. 22 of his damage to all enemies, a total of 88 damage is coming from his magic. But if we have him webbed, all of that goes away. He'd be doing 88 less damage, plus even a little bit more, because I believe he gains, yes, he gains magic from his ability itself as well. So that would be completely blocked if he was webbed at the time. And many abilities do skill off it, though some abilities have ways to work around it. Like, for example, this troop right here actually doesn't use its magic at all. It uses its attack value boosted by how many browns we have on our team, which is 2. And it completely ignores the fact that it uses, or it doesn't use magic at all. So it basically ignores a web in its entirety. This is one of the reasons why web is generally considered a lot worse than Entangle, because with Entangle, you're essentially completely negating out the skull capabilities of a opposing troop, whereas if you web an enemy, you're not really taking out their ability to cast, you're only taking out the ability of their magic. And on troops that don't really depend on their magic, you don't get too heavy of an effect on them. And we did end up getting the web on the most important one. As I said earlier, you normally, when you're using a web-related troop, you do like being able to aim it, like things like Sir Snothelms, things like Spider Queen, things that can specifically aim your web where you want it is generally good because you can target at their best option. Though we randomly got it on the luckiest one, and as I said earlier, his attack's now reduced all the way to 4, down from, I believe it was 26 earlier, so that is a drastic change on him that he will no longer be able to use, and he also no longer gains magic for the duration of that web if he was to do so. And now, just before he gets his split damage, we can do the same thing to that one. Now he's entangled, so he can't take skulls, and he's also webbed, so that his ability does a lot less damage. You saw right there, he did like a 185 something. So very, very small values that we no longer need to deal with anymore. And we can just keep repeating that, keep them disabled. And ideally, full AoE teams are actually one of the better things to use this on. Some of those stronger teams, like the 4x Red Dragon or something else like that, if you maybe see a Infernus, troops like those can actually be disabled pretty heavily by using a team similar to this. Also, this team isn't really too expensive. That's about mid-range. It's Sir Snothelm's an epic. The new one that just came in is also an epic. The Cockatrice, I believe, is a rare, ultra rare. Pretty sure it's a rare, and that would make Gorgolfa the only really high rarity on this team, though Gorgolfa isn't necessarily a necessity. I just chose it because why not? It works good for mana generation. So I'll throw that down, get all of our manas, and just keep repeating the cycle until we just win. Of course, with all extra turns, make sure to always throw Sir Snothelm essentially every single time you get it immediately, just because you automatically get it, and you might be able to get additional mana off of cascades and stuff like that, and you want to make sure that goes directly back into them. So we'll just throw that down, keep getting our little pokes, and just keep going from there. Let's see, we'll go for some yellow, get another cord clear, and I guess we'll skull poke, almost kill him, get another Gorgolfa. That will not be enough damage. We can go for a drain here. I haven't really been using it much, mainly because his team hasn't been getting up too many times. So I'll just do that, get our extra turn. We can actually go for a double drain here, and I believe I am actually going to go for it, given that we got it. And Cockatrice is pretty good for that. You get to keep getting the loop, keep getting the drains, keep getting the entangles, and yeah, you just make sure they never keep their mana, and you don't even need to worry about their skulls at all. So we'll go poke again, take that first, take that over, and yeah, it's pretty much match. He did lose his web right there. We'll probably need to go put that on if he's thinking about getting his ability up in any way. But that little poke into another one, and that seems to be matched. Kill it out with the Spinneret, and that is the new troop. So Spinneret in general, it's nice that it has a low mana cost. I personally don't think it's going to get too much usage unless the team is very, very, very heavily magic dependent. One, for example, that I use quite a bit, which would be really good to use it on, would be something along the lines of this. Other than the Dragon Soul, everything takes a really big hit if it was to not have its magic, or at least for the most part. He doesn't get any of his damage, no damage, no damage, and with the Dragon Soul, you don't get any explosions, or at least very minimal. Things like Christinex are also particularly good to use it on, and basically anything with full AoE in general is just really good to use it on. The more magic dependent they are, the heavier they will be hit by the web. I think one of the funniest ones that get hit by web is actually Web Spinner, because even though it's called a Web Spinner, it does not actually have the immune to web. It has immune to poison and the ability to web. And because of this, its ability is completely magic dependent. So if you get it down to a web, or if you web it, the Web Spinner webbed does 0 damage to all enemies, which I always found that to be really odd. But anyways, on to the next more important troop, which is the Soul Gainer. This thing is quite interesting as far as what can you do. I'm going to be using it with a full Orc team first, and then running into another one. But yeah, Soul Zara, as that would suggest, she actually does do quite soul-oriented play. She does a damage to a single target, and gains a static 10 souls. She can then do triple damage, and then the souls will also be tripled, so you would end up getting 30 souls, and in 2 casts, assuming one of them gets tripled, you'd be able to reach the max capacity of souls. You have 3/4 of your max capacity with that, and this triggers when the enemy has more life than her. So what you would want to use this on are mainly any opposing team that has true damage. Actually, let's go see if we can find a true damage team real quick, just so we can get a really good example for the first battle. Let's see, other than Scions. I want to try like a Crimson Bat or something would be ideal. That, or I'll just fight whatever we're up against in our other battle. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna find a normal true damager. I need one that doesn't mana drain. But anyways, we'll just roll with this. But yeah, she Really good against things that can poison, really good against things that run full AoE true damage, things like Merilith, Crimson Bat, Draculus, stuff like that. She also gains a lot of additional magic. She gains magic whenever she takes life damage. She also gains magic whenever an enemy dies. And on top of that, she's one of the few troops in the game that has a Necromancy plus a Soul Gain combination, which is quite useful. Basically, any troop that ever gets that combination will be somewhat useful since they can do both roles. They can accumulate the souls plus increase the cap of your souls that you get at the end of the battle. So, right off the bat, we're just going to want to take a bunch of mana. We are starting with the all-orc kind of concept, so we do gain a lot of starting mana due to the 50% that we're getting there on all of our troops. We can get quite a bit of red in here, though none of it actually lands for an extra turn. I'd want to wait until we can, if at all possible, so I am going to wait here. There's only one thing on the entire opposing team that has more life than me at the moment, and that is indeed the Dragon Soul. So I believe we are going to go for a single poke right there. As you can see, we do triple damage. We get exactly 69. We get 3/4 of her souls, as I mentioned. And yeah, there we go. That is essentially her in a nutshell. Gains a lot of souls, gains a decent amount of damage if it can get to triple shot. Her damage is relatively low without it, but still competent enough to be using without it if you really have to. Right now, we're mainly just trying to get alignment on this if we can. Trying to take away the purple just so he misses, and he does indeed miss, as is expected. I want to wait on this, but it looks like we just need to throw it already at this point. Don't really have too many options, and I do need the red so we can actually start casting things. One interesting other combo in this team is this ability boost based on... oh, never mind. It's all enemy magic. Why did I used to think that was all ally? I think it used to be. Never mind. I think it was originally, but then it was changed. My bad. I was going to say that boost based on all ally magic. It doesn't, though. Well, let's go and get a poke in here. So we would get a summon if that actually was possible, but we'll just go kill that out. Get the poke, get the other skull poke, kill that out, and just keep going down the line here. I'll take a little bit of green. We can get another attack. Really wish she had some true damage so we could get that down. We can technically lower ourselves with the Garnock, though realistically, it would take quite a bit of time if we were to lower it all that way. We do gain 2 magic every single time we cast that, though, due to her Orc Cunning, which every single time we do that true damage, we'll give her that little bit of HP. I mean, a little bit of magic, I mean. But let's go, just move that over. Let's see if we can get any alignment here. I don't believe we will. We still don't have the triple shot because it hasn't taken more damage. At this point, it might almost be better going for this. Throw a cast down, wait until he damages us off his ability, and then cast again, and we'll be able to get the one shot in at that point. For whatever reason, he is not taking his ability. Okay, now he has his ability. A little bit too late for that. So we'll just go do that. I think he'll do enough damage that we can still go and just go straight into the kill, unless we can get another little poke on him. I don't believe that's going to be possible, though. So let's move that over, let him do whatever, and that will allow us to now one-shot it, and down it will go. A little bit weird right there towards the end, but of course we could always use the Garnock to keep resummoning if we so had to choose. So now let's go and use a format that doesn't depend on the enemy having any true damage whatsoever, which is probably the more realistic kind of concept with it. Not currently using the correct hero class, but we should still be able to get away with it. Was working out pretty nicely. Actually, out of everything I used it with so far, a concept similar to this has been pretty much the best. Even though they both use the same exact color, it is currently the only realistic way to lower your HP by a lot, is by using a Dark Priestess. Dark Priestess can drain an ally's life and then creates a bunch of skulls, cleanses it, gives a barrier, and gives it a little bit of attack as well. We don't really need the attack per se, but what we mainly need is the actual HP reduction, as weird as that may seem, because we need that to be able to utilize the effect of her ability, because the good majority of her value comes from the ability itself. So we'll drop all that down, get quite a few cascades, go for a Gorgolfa in here. Let me make sure I take every possible extra turn though, because we are still using that hero class. It does still gain extra magic every single time, even though it's the only thing on our team gaining that extra magic because of not having additional dragons. So right here, we actually are already damaged, so I don't even need to go and cast the Dark Priestess. Highforge did that for us this time around, so there we go. We actually didn't even need it that time around. So we'll do that. I don't think it's going to go for its ability. If it does, then that's quite unfortunate. It is about to cast this, so I think I am going to go and deny that out immediately. Then I'm going to need a barrier up, but that will do a very small amount of damage, only 30. Isn't able to do that much because we were able to take out its armor so that it had a lower value than us. But we'll go move that down, go for a full AoE here, double check that everything has been removed from the board, and I believe that is the case. So we'll go throw that down. We're now at a state where we can easily two-shot with her every single cast we ever do. Similar to that of a Hydra, she is a troop that you generally need to keep at a relatively dangerous HP value in order to fully utilize her. One other strategy that you could technically do is deliberately keep her a lower level. The only problem with that though is the lower her level, the lower her magic would also be. So you might be able to get triple damage more often, but you won't be able to hit anything with that triple damage. So do keep that in mind. I think I might just throw a full AoE here, even though we already have barrier. Or just a skull. Have a skull. Here, have a skull. And whatever it hit at didn't even do anything because it had a barrier on it, so we'll go throw that back down. We'll probably throw an AoE for that or just kill it off of Gorgulthos. We can go triple shot and kill that instantly, and yeah, that is essentially a match right there. Go instant kill that. We're way above max souls, as you can see. Really easy. We didn't even use this a single time, did we? Because Highforge did the roll for us, but yeah, this skin, as you can see, it hits through barrier as well, and it ends up giving you some instant HP loss. So do keep in mind that it does hit through barrier, so you can be you can accidentally overkill your troop sometimes, because if you're about to hit that on a troop that's going to die from the damage, even though it has barrier, it actually will die. The barrier will not protect it, which is somewhat convenient with this kind of synergy, mainly because you do want to be reducing her HP down constantly. Though always make sure you have the barriers to support her if you are running her that way. Because she's going to be really flimsy. Most of the battle, she will be within one-shot range. Ideally, what she needs is something better that's not of the same color as her. Garnock can only do it by one, and Dark Priestess is the same color. Dark Priestess does what she needs, but it's the fact that it's the same color makes it really, really hard to use. But she is pretty nice. She can be used for soul gains. You can use it in almost every soul farming team, particularly since she has necromancy. So not only is she gaining you more souls, she's also gaining you a max capacity of souls, making her a viable option in almost every soul farming team. So yeah, definitely a pretty nice troop to go for. Out of everything, I do have to say I do like the Legend the most. I do like the utility of the Spinnerets, but the Legend is probably my preference at the moment. I'll probably form it into a couple other various soul teams into the future. But anyways, those are the new troops, or I should say the new 2 troops. The third one is you can pretty much just ignore, unless they're planning on buffing it in the future, which I sure hope they would. Because it is in a pretty stat state right now. I don't even think an early game. I was gonna show like maybe just a team just to show it for early game, but I don't even think it's viable for that, to be honest, compared to other options that already exist. But anyways, guys, if you still have any other questions about them or anything else with version 3.25, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, and best of luck if you're trying to find them in keys. Goodbye, everyone.